Once upon a time, on YouTube, there was a man who reminds me of the Emperor's New Clothes. This man was a member of a subspecies known as the troll. On YouTube, most trolls are generally disliked and avoided, as their sole purpose seems to be the meaningless flaming and infuriation of others. But this particular troll longed for the spotlight. He'd seen other trolls rise to fame and eventually gain the love and friendship of the YouTube netizens, and he set out to do the same. For a while, he tried to deny his trollish nature, and he presented the netizens with what he believed they wanted to see. For a while, it worked. The netizens began to like him, and some even came to consider him a friend. Sometimes he had a little trouble fighting his trollish nature, and he couldn't help but indulge in a flame war whenever the opportunity presented itself. This may be the reason he couldn't seem to move beyond the limited popularity that even the most popular trolls before him were able to gain. He thought he deserved more, and that others would fall in line once they realized how truly wonderful he really was. He needed something to get their attention, something beautiful, something lovable. Finally, he knew precisely what he needed, and one night he set himself to the task of creating a disguise. He tried to give it everything a good costume needs. It had beauty, plenty of shiny metals and stones to make it look expensive. It was noticeable, yet mysterious. He even took the care to make sure it looked good from behind. When he was finally satisfied with his creation, he put it on and flaunted it before the netizens. People noticed it. Who wouldn't? He told anyone who cared to ask that his new garment was made for him by someone who'd known him his whole life and who loved him deeply. His costume seemed to be the work of one who did indeed care for him, and it was so beautiful that some even wished for one of their own. Every time he donned his costumes, the netizens seemed to like him more, and he used his guise to lead people into his territory as friends or followers. However, being a troll by nature, he didn't manage to stay on everyone's good side, and there were some who implied that his garments, no matter how pretty, no matter how likable, were nothing but a cheap, fraudulent replica of something the troll himself could never afford, especially not through the love of another. When that accusation arose, he simply put on his costume and ridiculed the naysayers for the amusement of his followers. And for a while, all was well for him, and he enjoyed the acceptance and relationships built on a lie. If he'd been satisfied with that, perhaps the story would have a different ending. But he wanted more. He wore his disguise into the thick of his squabbles, and when he found himself on the brink of defeat, he added a delicate embellishment to stave off all attacks. For the most part, it worked. No one wanted to be responsible for damaging his beautiful disguise, and much to his delight, the pretty little flourish on his costume brought him more attention and more support. Then something bigger and more important than his shiny little lie shook YouTube, and the netizens turned their attention from him to mourn a great loss. In order to pull some of their attention back to himself, he ripped the beautiful little embellishment from his disguise, destroyed it, and cried out that it had been taken from him and was now forever lost. It brought him some sympathy and attention, but now his costume had nothing to ward off attacks, and nothing to protect him when he went to battle. His behavior, even when wearing his disguise, made far too many people angry. So late one night, he made a small tear in the fabric of the disguise, then announced to the netizens that his beautiful costume was damaged. So damaged that even the smallest provocation could ruin his beautiful garment forever. People apologized for the things they may have done to harm his garment, because everyone knew that once it was damaged, there weren't many ways to repair it, and there was no way to replace it. Finally, his behavior made some of those he pushed too far take a closer look at his disguise. They found that there were flaws that no one other than the troll himself would typically make. Further investigation showed that the pieces of the costume were pretty things stolen from places easily accessible to trolls, and one of the netizens, a rather proficient troll slayer, exposed his lie for all of YouTube to see. The truth spread far and wide, further even than he'd managed to carry his guise. The troll tried to defend his costume, tried to appeal to the sympathies of the netizens, but once the truth was spoken by one, others came forward. Still, he tried to fight for the last shreds of his relationships, all the while knowing that he'd taken one lie entirely too far. And when that lie came to light, nothing could be said to redeem him. The netizens waited for him to answer for himself, to give some reason for his deception. He promised to provide evidence of his legitimacy, but has yet to produce it. The netizens could only watch with disgust as he tried to prove his innocence without anything resembling evidence. After all, what could he say that would make it all okay? The netizens of course realized that he'd woven a web so vile he had no hope of escaping it. Finally, the spotlight he'd worked so hard for was focused mercilessly upon him. There wasn't even the palest shadow of doubt for him to hide beneath. But everyone watched with morbid curiosity as he squirmed and searched for one anyway. The end.